This video can be summed up in a single sentence. If you want to improve extroverted sensing, go touch grass. The end. But if you're an INTJ, you know that we can over-explain anything, and this video is one of those moments. When people think about extroverted sensing, or SE, what they commonly think about is an active person who engages with the world. It's a bit more than that. And because extroverted sensing is more nuanced than just touching grass, I'm breaking this video down to 3 different components of extroverted sensing that I believe needs to be addressed. There is no one-size-fits-all method, but I'll explain the mentality that you should have engaging with one of the components so that you have context as to why you're doing it and what that means for self-development. The 3 components of extroverted sensing are the following. Number 1, the personal side of extroverted sensing. Number 2, the people side of extroverted sensing. And number 3, the physical side of extroverted sensing. The reason why I've broken it down into 3 different sections is because they're all different. Just because you've mastered one side of extroverted sensing doesn't mean that you've mastered the other. To start this video, there's a few truths about extroverted sensing that is present in all 3 components of extroverted sensing. I'm not going to go too in-depth into what extroverted sensing is. The only thing that you should know from a textbook knowledge is that it's the gathering side of a perceiving function, and that if you have extroverted sensing, then you automatically have introverted intuition. Extroverted sensing collects data from the real world, and NI interprets the data. That's why you can have 2 INTJs raised in the same family, but the way that they express themselves can be completely different. In defense of extroverted sensing, that's not SE's fault, that's NI's fault. Introverted intuition is the one who decides what the SE data means. So NI community, stop hating on SE and show it some love. The first truth about BB extroverted sensing is that it's performative, especially when it's partnered with another function. Extroverted sensing partner with NI results in the movie Interstellar, where you take a very complex intuitive topic such as time travel, space travel, or different dimensions, and turn it into a blockbuster spectacle. SE partner with TE results in one of the most famous inspirational quote ever heard throughout history by former US President JFK when he said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." An SE partner with FI is dancing on stage at a kid's talent show to support her child while she sings Big Sean's "I Don't Fuck With You" to someone that bullies her. Those are all simple examples of the performative side of SE, but keep in mind, that's only one side of it. The second truth is that extroverted sensing is adaptable. Regardless of all the systems that NI or TE built for an INTJ, however optimal they might be, SE is able to see things for what they truly are in the moment and able to adapt accordingly. It's more difficult to access this side of SE without practice, but it's been a game changer to be able to adapt on the fly. Whether the change is positive or negative, baby SE will adapt. SE can change with the wind. The last truth about extroverted sensing is that it's directionless, which is different from being adaptable. Baby extroverted sensing adapts to the environment. It doesn't really know which direction to go, which makes any path just as fun. Baby extroverted sensing isn't worried about the hangover tomorrow after drinking too much, or your partner being upset at you when you throw up on the couch. Baby extroverted sensing just wants to move, and sometimes it leads to very questionable decisions. Some good, lots of them are bad, but ultimately, they're memorable. So to quickly recap this section, baby extroverted sensing is performative or charming, adaptable or go with the flow, and directionless, which means living in the moment. Which sounds like I'm explaining the stereotypical SE Dom, but don't forget, in this channel, I hate talking about stereotypes. SE Doms are way more complex than that. Now let's go over the 3 components of extroverted sensing and how to improve them. Let's start off with the personal side of extroverted sensing. This is the part of the video that matters the most, so pay attention. An INTJ doesn't want the spotlight until an INTJ wants the spotlight. INTJs, you know what I mean. We tell people all the damn time that we don't like attention, which is true majority of the time. I don't like attention that I didn't ask for. Well, what about the moments that we do want attention? The moment when you want to tell a joke but don't know how to command a room. The moment you're on stage celebrating your performance or winning a competition. Or on a random night out when you think you might have ran into your forever person and you want to charm that person because you might never see that person again. As a human being, you're able to use any of the 8 cognitive functions in those situations. But being an INTJ, we're blessed with having extroverted sensing as our 4th function. Even though baby SE is still a child, he still lives in a house. It is way easier for an INTJ to access extroverted sensing than half of the MBTI community, and we make it look natural. Once we develop using extroverted sensing, it is natural. I found out not too long ago that INTPs and INFPs, which are both SE blind, They don't know what to do with their hands when they're in a picture or a video until later in life. I'm not comfortable with my hand in pictures or videos either, but I know what to do with them. In pictures, you got the chicken wing, the peace sign, you got your arms crossed, arms out, and a bunch of different ways to position your hand. Again, it's not comfortable, but SE has noticed what's commonly used and what's generally acceptable to do in a picture, and we tend to learn that at an earlier age than people who don't have SE as one of their first 4 functions. The reason why I'm bringing up the comparison in this portion of the video is because as an NI Dom, we want to be prepared as possible for any situation, and in order for you to be prepared, you have to understand why you're preparing and why it matters. Just going outside touching grass for 30 minutes every day isn't going to improve your mastery of extroverted sensing. That's a waste of freaking time. You have to understand why you're doing it, or it's just wasted, directionless time. Ask yourself on a personal level, why is developing extroverted sensing important? If I had a career as a carpenter and I know I'll never give public speeches in front of a group, why would I spend time learning how to give professional speeches? That is a waste of time. But if you're a college student and you went through high school not having friends and want that to change in college, the intended result incentivizes you to want to improve. I'm not gonna lie, it's not gonna be easy. If you watch my earlier videos, I already mentioned that I used to go to bars alone to get over my fear of talking to strangers. There were lots and lots of nights where I was that creepy dude at the bar staring at people because I couldn't think of a topic to spark up a conversation with people. Or I start off a conversation and my mind just goes blank, making me even creepier. Guys, it wasn't easy, but I did it. And now I could talk to any person in any situation and still have a great time. I actually developed a system that you guys could use. I turn it into a game when talking to someone. When I talk to someone new, I always seek to learn something new from this person. It could be different data, perspectives, or just a different way to engage with the world. Each person has lived their own life and they have something that they could teach me. And because I'm approaching extroverted sensing from an NI lens of being naturally curious, the conversations are usually easier because it aligns with my FI value of being authentic in all situations. My ISFJ sibling recently asked me what changed because I was more sensitive as a child, and as an adult, I'm more focused and carefree. His SI thinks that I'm putting up an act as an adult because this new person isn't who I was as a child. And my answer wasn't that I changed, it's that I allowed myself to become more me. One of the biggest issues about engaging with extroverted sensing as an INTJ is that we don't allow ourselves to engage with extroverted sensing. We're so laser focused on our NITE goals that we ignore FI or SE. So as I said earlier in this section, why would we develop extroverted sensing if we don't know where our FI value is, our own personal values? We overcompensate our lack of baby SE with mama TE because it's easier. Instead of being charismatic when presenting a difficult topic, we just decide to go with straightforwardness. So when I hear an INTJ ask me how to improve extroverted sensing, my first question is always, why do you want to improve extroverted sensing? And the most common answer that I receive, which is the same answer I had when I was younger, is to achieve a TE task. So at that point, just use extroverted thinking. Figure out what's been done before that's effective and just mimic it. I'm a true believer that extroverted sensing can't be developed until after you engage with anti-FI. Because whatever system that TE develops to accomplish whatever the task is, it's going to be discarded once it's not useful anymore. FI, or your values, won't allow you to do that and will make what you learn part of you and part of the person you're becoming. It's like taking a bunch of buffs before fighting a final boss of a video game instead of first putting in time to level up your character. The results are temporary. To summarize component 1, it's 1,000,001 times way easier to learn to engage with extroverted sensing once you figure out what actually matters to you on a personal level. A lot of the times, that involves having an honest conversation with anti-FI. A famous potential INTJ once said, "If you know the why, you could live anyhow." Friedrich Nietzsche, or Nietzsche. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but we're moving on, guys. The second component of extroverted sensing is that there's the people side of extroverted sensing. This is the side of SE that I don't see get brought up much in the MBTI community. Extroverted sensing does have a people component to it. This section of the video is very important because you can't just work on the physical side of extroverted sensing without understanding how the people side affects it. Because if that was the case, then the answer would literally be just go outside and touch grass. Following that train of logic, if you want to be more in shape, baby, go to the gym. If you want to learn how to make friends, go outside and talk to people. If you want to see the world, just save up and travel. Case closed. You don't need to see the rest of this video because you got it all figured out. There are tons of emotions attached to extroverted sensing, but the one that I see commonly within the INTJ community is shame or fear. Shame of not being able to operate at a certain level immediately, or fear of looking stupid in front of people. It's pretty common for people to be surprised that an INTJ is good at a certain hobby. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to bring it up, or there's no point, so we won't let people know. INTJs tend to practice hobbies alone and then show it off once we arrive to a certain level of mastery. But why do we prefer to practice alone? Yes, it's easier to practice alone without distraction, but INTJs, is that the only reason why we do that? If we see an SE Dom burst out and dance in front of a group of people and they mess up, why do we sometimes feel secondhand embarrassment? They're living in the moment. They're engaging with SE. They're operating at a level that we're hoping to arrive to in this video. And the most important thing, guys, they're having fun. As an INTJ, we're high TE users. We know that messing up and failing is part of the process. So if the shame doesn't come from within, where does it come from? All right, enough question. You guys know the answer. It's the shame of other people witnessing us fail. And that shame holds us back. A high SE user is more likely to hit on a random person than a low SE user, not because they're not afraid of failing, but they acknowledge the emotions attached to whether they succeed or fail. Or sometimes they don't even think about the consequences of failing. It's similar to how NI DOMs acknowledge that there might be things in life that there are no answers to, no matter how much we search for it. So if we don't acknowledge the emotions attached to extroverted sensing, how are you going to make friends if you're afraid of saying the wrong things? How are you going to be better at public speaking if you're afraid of how you look in front of people? How are you going to be better at sports unless you practice with other people to know your capabilities and what you need to work on? There's an internal agreement that you have to make with yourself to become better at extroverted sensing. And that agreement is that you're going to put yourself in very vulnerable positions, hoping that it will help you improve. People are going to laugh at you. People are going to think you're cringy or a creep. People are going to say lots of negative things about you when you're starting off, and you can't let that stop you. Use it as fuel to become better. Me, myself, I've received plenty of negative comments growing this YouTube channel. And my mentality? Fuck those people. A simple quote that I've heard years ago that's gotten me through a lot of tough times is, at first, they will ask you why you're doing it. Later, they'll ask you how you did it. Something that I've noticed personally before MBTI is that there are people, even though they're introverted, that tends to enjoy the presence of other people more than other types. And it is not by a tremendous amount, but it's noticeable. Introverts are gonna introvert, but I finally figured out what the difference is. The introverts that I grew up around that tend to be more social or like socializing more with other people are all sensors. Which kind of makes sense since intuition is undefined and sensing is based on what is or reality. And reality also means physically being around people. The point I'm trying to make is that the people aspect of extroverted sensing also flows into the cognitive function of introverted sensing. Sensing in general has a people component to it, and the higher it is on the function stack, the more likely that person is to show up if invited, regardless of the surrounding cognitive functions. To summarize this section, there is a people component of sensing, and until you acknowledge that there is, it's going to be a very difficult time for self-improvement. People's judgments will lead to lots of strong emotions, and we have to accept it as growing pains. The sooner you are able to process your own emotions and accept your own shortcomings, the faster it is to improve extroverted sensing. The third and final component of extroverted sensing is the physical side of extroverted sensing. This is the portion of extroverted sensing that most people are aware of, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. This section is physically engaging with the world. I'm a firm believer that as an INTJ, you can't really get to this point until you acknowledge the first two components. You don't have to master them, but as long as you know why and what you want to change and accept the cringe along the way, you can start working on the physical side of extroverted sensing. So what exactly is the physical side of extroverted sensing? The easiest way that I can explain it is that it's what you do with your body or the presence of your body. It's how you pose in a picture. It's a type of hobbies you have in your free time. It's the amount of space that you physically take up in a room. It's your facial expression when you use to charm a person or tell a joke. It's the cadence in which you deliver your joke. It's the amount of physical activities you do within a week. It's sitting on grass, feeling the wind blow in your hair. It's taking kids to the local pool. It's in the way that you dress or the type of toilet paper that you buy because you like a certain level of thickness when you wipe your butt. It's the type of car that you drive. It's when you decide to sing a song out loud when it comes on the radio. It's going to a concert. It's cooking good food. And ultimately, guys, it's just existing in the real world. Mastering extrovert sensing for an INTJ is finally living life. I've said this in multiple videos, and I mean it every single time. Regardless of all the things that I've accomplished or the places that I've visited, I really don't feel like I have a life. But that feeling goes away for a while when I'm actually physically doing something. Even though I know that being outside is the answer, guys, it's so difficult to do. Because there's this huge part of me that's always asking, what's the reason for me being outside? Being directionless and being outside doesn't make sense to me. If there's no purpose to engage the world, why would I be out there? This is where the entire video coalesces. And before I begin to summarize the entire video, there's one cheat code that I think can benefit any person watching this video, regardless of where you live, your age, or your lifestyle. If you want to improve extroverted sensing, INTJs, make sensor friends. As I said earlier, sensors tend to enjoy engaging with the world more than us intuitives, which means that they're more likely to step outside the house, and they'll more likely invite you if they like you. But just befriending them is only the first step. You also have to constantly show up when you're invited. You have to reciprocate by inviting them to things. And you have to stay in constant communication, which also means talking about sensory-filled topics, such as the last season of Love is Blind. And before anyone talks shit about that show, that's the only trash TV that I would gladly promote. I love that show, and I watched every season besides Seattle because I hate the passive aggressiveness of the Seattle season. In my own personal ecosystem, sensors outnumber intuitives 3-1, and I believe that's a great ratio. It benefits all of us. Us intuitives consistently have a reason to get out of the house, the sensors get companionship, and we all help each other develop our lower functions. A healthy INTJ is an INTJ that doesn't fit the stereotype because we're able to engage every function. And we don't gatekeep friends just because they're sensors, because we know there's a lot that we can learn from them. If you get anything from this video, just one thing, I hope that it's this next line. INTJs, go make sensor friends. There is no one-size-fits-all method to improve extroverted sensing, but there are steps that you can take to make it easier. First, figure out what aspect of extroverted sensing you want to improve, and then figure out why you want to improve it. Once you figure out the why, your hows should be clear because your hows are everywhere. The second step is to acknowledge and accept that you will feel uncomfortable while improving, and the feeling of discomfort usually stems from other people. Engaging the world also means engaging with people. And honestly, that's the fun part. It's a great feeling to know that strangers who once thought I was creepy are now strangers who want to be my friend. It's a great way to measure progress. The final step of the process will be the beginning of a new chapter in your life. Once you figure out how and why you're doing something and acknowledge the discomfort along the way, INTJs, it's finally time to go outside. It's finally time to live life. It's finally time to make friends. It's finally time for you to do and accomplish whatever you want to accomplish because you are capable. INTJs, once you figure out the 3 components in order to start engaging with extroverted sensing, it's time to go touch some grass. And that's all for my video, folks. Thanks again for watching. I didn't really want to make this video, but I've consistently received requests in order to ask how to improve extroverted sensing. And my initial response is always, okay, first, why? And secondly, I don't know who you are. I don't know your life experience. I don't know the situation you're in. Like, how am I going to help you improve it unless I understand why? It took me a long time to write this script. I wrote, rewrote, edited, removed a bunch of different portions of this video because either it didn't make sense, it was talking about something else, or I didn't really believe it. But in order to improve extroverted sensing, the easiest way, especially for an INTJ, especially because we're NI-DOMs, it's to understand why you need to change or why we're trying to change. Because if you can't answer why, then what's the point? You don't need to at that point, right? Unless it's stopping you from doing something. And then at that point, you have to figure out whether it's a TE issue or it's an FI issue. I know this video is about extroverted sensing, but it has a huge tie with introverted feeling. INTJs, once you start engaging with introverted feeling, life becomes more clear. You start understanding what you need to invest time in and what will actually start making you happy. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July, and yeah, thanks for watching.